It's the usual end of season review. This one's a little special because it's the last season of the Destiny seasons. After this we'll have episodes, and no one knows how that's going to turn out. But yeah, Season of the Wish, last season, and I'm just going to do the usual overview, and then I'll do any rantings and ravings for the very end. So, overview of the story is that at the end of the last season, Season of the Witch, it turns out that the elusive 15th wish was on Savathun's wings, and it's the wish to get through the portal. That's how you get through the portal. Well, if you need to wish something, you need a wish dragon and Ahamkara, but they're all dead. So you go to the last wish raid, uh, and you get Riven's a bone from Riven's corpse. You summon her spirit, and you're like, okay, wish us through the portal. And she's like, nope. Um, Turns out you need to there's no reason for her to do it, so you enter this bargain where you rescue her eggs she kept secret from even Mara, and you do that, you collect those eggs, and you're good to go. Turns out, when you go to Riven's lair, all the eggs have been scattered through the Ascendant Plane, and no one knows who's done it. Mara assumes Riven's done it, Riven assumes Mara does it, to stall for time, because Osiris is also working on a way to try to figure out how to get through without using wish magic. And yeah, that's the most of the entire season, just collecting Riven's eggs. Each week there's like some dialogue. You learn a little bit about Kara, a little bit about the usual character interactions. A big like the big first main story point is the Starcross exotic mission, which is actually part of the seasonal quest line. Unlike other seasons, like where Seraph Shield or Avalon weren't a part of the quest. Like they had some story implications, but they weren't part of the the seasonal quest. This one actually is, and you get the bow Wishkeeper from it's a strand bow, suspense stuff. But you learn that there was a hidden layer, Ahamkara layer, in the Black Garden, and it turns out that the Ahamkara that lives there is called Taranis, and that was Riven's mate, and it was actually him who scattered the eggs to the Ascendant Plane by granting his own wish. And you learn that Ahamkaras, they feed on the desire of what is wished for and what's reality. That's why they grant the wishes the way they do, like in a monkey paw kind of way, because that's what they feed. And the one thing that you never do as an Ahamkara is, wish, you grant your own wish, because that kills you. And you learn that Taranis was a different Ahamkara from the rest. He was very nice. His wishes didn't have any backlashes to them, like you'd always grant them. And anyways, so you learn about that. Riven kind of softens up throughout the season, and very more sympathetic. There's also the Warlord's End dungeon on the EDZ. It's not part of the season, even though it has ties into it because you have to pay for it separately. But I'm just mentioning it here because you learn about another Ahamkara. I can't even pronounce it. I'm not gonna even try to pronounce it. But he kind of seemed like a nice one too, where he had a warlord friend that died, and the warlord basically wished ruin upon the House of Kings. So then they became Scorn or whatever. But you learn through collecting. There's a little quest associated with this. You learn through collecting the bones that Shax is an Ahamkara killer. Like, they sent him out to kill a lot of these wish dragons, and he said something profound, which is kind of obvious to most people, like to us. But he's like, okay, like a fire isn't inherently evil; it just burns stuff. It's nature, right? But when a fire goes out of control, you have to put it out. Same with Ahamkara, and inherently, are they really evil? No, they're just following their nature, but they went out of control, so we had to kill them. So that's pretty much it. Again, this season kind of puts the whole entire Great Hunt into like a different kind of perspective. But essentially, that's the 1 week where you get the bow, Riven softens up, you learn about some stuff. Oh, and then she actually admits the catch with the wish, because there's always a catch, is that the wish only allows one person to go through the portal. You can't send, she says, you can't send an army on the wings of a wish. You can only send one portal. Obviously, Mara gets pissed off. And now they're like, okay, well, who do we send through? And then, Crow's back in the season, so you already know he's the main character of this game. So he's like, hey, how about you send me through the portal, because me and Mara have this connection that we can feel across, even the Ascendant Plane. So if I go through, I can be like a beacon in the dark for, Mara to guide us, to guide all, everyone through. And he's like, yeah, if we're gonna only send in one person, you're the obvious choice, because you're like the god killer or whatever. But if we want to get everyone in here, we need, like, I should go to be the beacon, right? So you decide upon that. There's like another week where an egg gets corrupted, but then you undo the taken corruption. But ultimately, this all culminates in the last mission, the last wish, right? You're doing granting the 15th wish. Reverend basically says, like, by doing this, it's going to expend all my power, so I'll basically be gone forever. And so this will be like her farewell. So she has some words for us while putting the wish. Putting the wish. Seventh thing says you wish for a new like pathway or something. Then it goes to a cutscene where Petra, Mara, Riven, and Crow are in their area, and portal opens up. They have some words. He runs in and jumps, and then Mara can sense that he's on his way, which basically this kind of like was different. I guess it makes sense because of the delay, because you don't know Beyond Line. Final Shape has been delayed for another 4 months, so it's gonna be in June. So the idea is that the portal isn't instantaneous; you have to travel through it. So maybe that's their like cope explanation to figure out how the witness hasn't already won, because he's been in there for already a year. Maybe he just got through by the time the final shape starts, because he took a different path. That's how I'm trying to excuse that like weird like okay it takes 4 months. So, little tangent, sorry, but anyways, so that's a seasonal story. It ends right there. In terms of activities, we have only one, even though there's 2 on the map. You have Riven's Lair and you have the Coil. Riven's Lair is just a shorter version of the Coil, or the Coil is a longer version of Riven's Lair. Well, I guess Riven's Lair doesn't have the modifiers, but they're essentially the same activity. You go in, we'll talk about the Coil. You go in, kind of like deep dives, you pick up some witching glass, you pick some perks, you transition to a different area, you hit some plates randomly, transition to another encounter, then go back to another place with the hit plates, and then you have to fight a boss. Do that 4 times. At the end, enemy level increases as you go, stuff like that. In terms of seasonal weapons, we actually have a lot of good ones. Also, important note: there's no seasonal exotic armor this time around, so there's that. Anyways, so like the seasonal weapons, I'm using Scatter Signal right now. There's a lot of good ones, a lot of interesting ones. Seasonal of the Undying weapons have come back, and the only ones that people really care about are probably Subjunctive, because it's an arc SMG, which means it has Volt Shot, and the only other arc SMG that has Volt Shot is Iclos, which is an aggressive frame, no longer obtainable. So this one's they're also craftable. All the seasonal weapons are craftable. Sorry if I'm speaking a mile a minute here. I'm just trying to get to the interesting part, because clearly everyone wants to hear me like screaming about video games. But yeah, as you'll see, the Spirit of Riven won't be here because I've already completed the quest step on my Hunter. Also, another revelation I forgot to even mention is that the Dreaming City curse will never be broken. Apparently, that's the thing they just threw in there like the very beginning. But Riven isn't there anymore because she's dead. Like she's dead. Apparently, summoning her spirit was like lighting a flame, so eventually it's gonna go out and she'll be gone forever. So yeah, Riven's dead forever. Anyways, so yeah, with seasonal stuff, Super Cluster, nothing to write home about. Scatter Signal has Slice, which is a new perk on strand weapons, where if you use your class ability, you can apply Sever, and this applies to any subclass, so you can have Sever on any subclass. Sever is really good because it decreases the enemy's damage by 40%, pretty damn good. Appetence is the first ever stasis trace rifle, and this is important because now you can have trace rifle in the kinetic slot and run other energy weapons. Lithophobia, if you want to be a disruption break bow bro, they finally did it. They added a disruption break on a bow, so quick swapping has never been easier. Scalar potentials, that's like a PvP rapid fire. I've heard some good things. Doom Petitioner is the other aggressive. Now we have almost every aggressive element except for I think Strand. It's an aggressive linear, so think of like Storm Chaser, Briar's Contempt, Fire Forget, 3 bursts, linear fusion rifle. This one's interesting because it has precision instrument, and kind of like how Vice Stinger used to work on Fire and Forget, each individual hit from the burst has can proc precision instrument, so you can max it out at within 2 bursts, and it's craftable, so you can have an enhanced precision instrument for more damage. So like I said, most of these weapons are pretty good. Maybe Super Cluster and the bow and these aren't that good, but there's some standouts. For Undying weapons, again, Subjunctive because it's a lightweight, it can roll Volt Shot, that's what people care about it. Imperative, I've never heard anything, no one cares about it. Adhorative can roll Heal Clip, and Incandescent, I think Shoot to Loot too, has some things. But it's an adaptive pulse, so, I don't know. And then Optative, the Leaf Gun, another craftable Void Hand Cannon that's also 180. What is the coincidence of that, right? But yeah, seasonal weapons are alright this time around. Again, the season's a half a year long, so there's no rush. In terms of other stuff, like balance changes, they've done some nerfs to like Restoration, Wolverine, nothing too crazy. I think the biggest nerf The nerfs were the orb ability generation, where you can't, like, heavy hand has an internal cooldown of like 10 seconds, so you have to stack multiple of them to, you know, get the old effect back. But they cost 3, so you need, use up 9 of your energy to get back the old effect. Little Mail has a slight nerf. Stasis had minor buffs and a slight nerf because Whisper of Chains, the one where you break your glacier or a crystal to get increased regen, that used to have plus 10 resilience, now has none. So much for seasonal stasis, right? In terms of seasonal artifact, if you are, I need to talk about the seasonal weapon. If you are a solar person, you are very happy. Flint Striker is one of the strongest mods ever because even if you're not using solar subclass, you can get Radiant as long as you're using a solar weapon hitting crits. Torch is okay. Heart of the Flame, good for golden gun stuff because automatically apply Radiant, really good. A Revitalizing Blast gives you weaken on any solar ability against bosses and champions. Solar Operative comes back, raise positions is really good. I'm just trying to like speedrun this part. Probably the weakest part of these artifacts is that it's only piercing sidearm. Technically, you can get around it by using Flint Striker if you have a solar weapon you like. Overload Rocket, that's first, I think. Argent Ordnance has come back, and Blast Radius, whatever. But the seasonal weapon is Dragon's Breath, a returning weapon from Destiny 1, and it's really good. It's basically like a lasting impression rocket on steroids, because like you shoot someone, and the more fuel you have in it, which you build up passively or through ignitions, the more scorch it spews out, and just constantly causing ignitions. Really good. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the season. If I were to rank this season, it's just it's all right. Again, it's another season. I will now we'll go into the rant portion. The biggest problem with this season is people usually complain about Destiny using assets and stuff, but this season feels way more egregious than other stuff because what I've skipped over when I was talking about the seasonal story is that a lot of the seasonal story is basically replaying Forsaken. That expansion that's like over half a decade years old at this point. You have to do Blind Well, right? They did update the Dreaming City weapons, but you have to do Blind Well. You have to do an Ascendant challenge. You have to do the Oracle Engine mission, and then you have to do the Oracle Engine bounty to access the Oracle Engine room. Right? That's just wow. And then you have to do Blind Well again. Their excuse for adding Blind Well is that they said, hey, we updated the weapon perk pool, so we wanted to give people, we wanted to let people know by making them go into Blind Well because it has matchmaking now. It's funny. It's almost like they have this end game message like every Friday where they tell you what's going on in Destiny, or like when you get a exotic that has an ornament in the Ever Store, how pop-up shows up, how they could just tell you that way instead of making you go into Blind Well. But I digress. A lot of the areas are reused. Like seriously, like I don't think there's any new location. Even the final mission room is just a reskin of the Ascendant Challenge for one of the weeks. I forgot which one it was, but it's like Coil, which had a lot of potential, but the issue is there's no variability. There's unlike Deep Dives where like you had a mix of 3 different bosses at the end. The Coil is once you've played it once, you have played through it 1,000 times because all the bosses are the same, all the encounters are the same. The only difference is which order you do them in. And the biggest issue of Coil is the way the scoring system works, because you have because the one thing about the Coil is that it is probably the most rewarding activity in the, like I think maybe in the history of the game. You get a lot of chests, you can get a lot of red borders if you get a high score. How do you get a high score? By collecting glass shards. How do you collect glass shards? Is it through combat? Nope. You have to break pots around the arenas, and maybe some enemies sometimes drop them, and that's how you get your score, by breaking pots and collecting basically motes, like you're playing Gambit Light. And if you want a platinum score to get the most, you have to kill a thing called a glass collector. If you don't kill a glass collector, you don't get a platinum score. Also, by collecting a high score, you can open these doors that give you extra chests. So that in of itself is awful. I don't know why they made it that way. It's so like unfun. If you just want to have a nice time and just shoot stuff, you have to run around playing Gambit essentially if you want to actually get loot, which is really dumb. Another issue too is the sorry. What's going on a roll there? My brain kind of forgot Coil in real time. Just heard me for. But essentially, I know what I was talking about, the transversal sections. So the way the pacing of it is weird. You get your buffs, right? You go in, you have to collect 3 random plates, fine, whatever. Then you go do an encounter, but then you go back to another area to collect 3 random plates, and it's constantly like fight and then go press 3 random plates, fight, and then it really breaks up the flow, and it's really annoying. The one reason why I like Prison of Elders a lot was that you fight, you go into the airlock, and then you go right back into the action. There's no like you need to jump around and do this. Another thing too is that there's a revive tokens that you can get from killing enemies or buying them. And if you're playing in a team that isn't like, if you're LFGing it, you might run into a situation where you have people that just blow through your lives because they keep dying during the spike sections or this or that. They have fixed an issue. This is an issue for a while that they got fixed this week, where if you're out of lives and you died, you could actually get kicked from the activity for inactivity when you're sitting in your ghost, and you'd lose all your loot. So I'm glad it took them like almost like a month and a half to fix that, but yeah, that's been fixed. So another thing too about this season that really went backwards was what Season of the Witch did that was really great. Was that every week during the seasonal story, it didn't force you to do seasonal activity. You didn't have to do Savathûn Spire every week. You didn't have to do Altars of Summoning. There were weeks where you had to do some of it, right? And it was annoying, but you didn't have to do it every week. This, however, makes you almost go through the core like almost every week, right? Do stuff, do old challenges, do stuff that's been 5 years old almost every week, and it's just fatiguing. And yeah, it's really I think what I'm trying to get at is that this is the last season, right? So now I can compare all the seasons. And this season is not the weakest. Defiance is definitely the weakest, but I think Witch was the best, and this one's probably either, like, if I were to tier them, Witch would be number 1, Defiance would be number 4, and then Deep and Wish could be interchangeable. Maybe, I'll give Deep at least the benefit of being, like, new areas, like, different areas of Titan, so it might be a little bit higher than Wish. At least the Wish weapons are better, because the Deep weapons are trash, but whatever. Point being is that it kind of reminds me of like the way this game's going, where they start off bad, they get better, then they get good, and then they go backwards, right? Like Defiance was bad, Deep was better, Witch was really good, and then you go back to Wish, which is a step back from arguably Deep, right? Uh, and also another thing about all these seasonal stories and all this crap is that it a lot of final seasons have this problem where the story isn't compelling because you know what happens in the end. Like in season lost, Savathûn will be excised from the crystal, right? You know that. You know in the end of season it's there if you'll go to Neomoon. You know at the end of season of Wish you go through the portal, right? But what makes this season like egregious in terms of storytelling is because the portal, right? The portal has been probably the worst thing that's happened for some, because of Lightfall. Because all these, it doesn't, because the way Destiny works is that all these seasons will disappear at the end of the year, right? Back in the state of the game, I also made that offhand comment about like they talk about, oh, the totality of all these seasonal stories will make up for more like story content one campaign ever could, and I said, well, it doesn't matter because that's gonna disappear in a year, so what then, right? But essentially, at the end of Lightfall, what was the goal? Follow the witness through the portal. So it doesn't matter any of these seasons. None of the seasons matter because all you have to know is that you will go through the portal, right? Like, if someone like, let's say someone comes back a year from now, Final Shape comes out, and all the seasons are gone. What would they have missed? Amanda Holiday died. Big whoop. Who cares, right? Titan came back and Sloan came back. Wow. Who cares? There's a space whale named Asa. Wow. So the 15th witch was real and it's on Savathûn's body. Cool. That's actually a really big like lore thing. That's been like people in the community pulling their hair out for like years, literally almost half a decade over this crap. And it turns out, what's the 15th wish? Is it to break the Dreaming City curse, to do something crazy? No, it's just to wish your way through the portal. Wow. What a big whoop. Wow, that's a 15th wish, right? So it's nothing, all right? And then Season of Wish, you just wish your way through the portal. Like you could remove all these seasons, and that's like there's nothing of importance that you missed. Like I guess the Witness's origins is important, but again, it's just like the issue with that cutscene, like I said before, is again it just breaks a lot of lore books, right? And also it just explains everything, and again it reduces the Witness to just something we've seen before. It is a civilization that is jaded. The Traveler left them and is chasing after them. Where have we seen this before? Alright, the Fallen, right? It's like, we have seen this beat play out, and the fact that the Witness has been reduced to just another generic enemy race chasing the Traveler, wow, what a big whoop. All the pyramid ships are empty, wow. Like, even the character design, the Witness looks goofy as hell. Like, the only cool part was, like, the smoke head thing, but the eye, like, no. Witness is a terrible villain, and the fact that we're learning about the Witness now, when it's already in the Traveler, assumably doing stuff, is like these seasons, this story should have came way before. But yeah, like that's pretty much like we should have learned about the witness origin stuff like that inside the Traveler. Maybe like what like maybe it might be talking to us because another big issue I had of Season of the Deep in that cutscene is like how does Asa know this, right? How does the Space Whale know? Did the Space Whale witness this happen? Did the witness tell the Space Whale this while it was killing everyone? Like I don't understand how Asa knew this, but anyways, that's the whole entire like story issue, right? And that's why all these seasons felt like weak narrative wise. Um, but yeah, like especially the fact that all this culminates is that we're going through the portal, right? That's it. Um, in terms of like other generic stuff, Warlord's Ruin, the dungeon, it's on the EDZ. It's a fun dungeon. Again, I'm not talking. This is separate from the season. It's a fun dungeon. However, it suffers from a really big problem, which is the loot is trash. The exotic's pretty cool. It's a burst, like imagine like an aggressive burst item with a lot of range, like not Forerunner range, but a lot of range. It can give you Devour any subclass, and the Catalyst gives you Weaken when you have Devour, right? Pretty cool sidearm, so that's cool. But like, uh, outside of that, the bow maybe if you have Slice on our primary, and then the rocket sidearm because it can roll Volt Shot. We have a new archetype which is special ammo sidearms, rocket sidearms that do a lot of damage, pretty good. But like outside of that, the other loot's trash. So there's not really an incentive to keep going. Also, the solo flawless and master rewards were bugged to give the Ghost of the Deep rewards, and I don't know how that's even possible. I don't know like what kind of living code mumbo jumbo voodoo. Like again, I hate to be a backseat developer, but did they even test this? Like how do you mix up the solo flawless emblem from Ghost of the Deep, a dungeon that came out like over half a year ago, with this? I don't know. But they fixed that this week too, apparently. So there's that. So yeah, stuff like that. In terms of like GM stuff. Again, Slabs Battleground became the GM. It's the new GM this season, right? It's never been a GM before. And like I said, 3 for 3 now on a Battlegrounds being a GM, being a complete shit show because Battlegrounds are not strikes. They were designed as seasonal activities, and that's why they had high ad density and infinitely spawning ads because people were complaining about that seasonal content. But guess what? When you throw a GM modifier on there, turns out things start to become really bad. And yes, I know people have already beaten the Strike Solo and Strand Titan and Polar. Like I know that, but it goes to show that you need like a really it's just not a fun GM. Um, so yeah, it's been pretty trash. In terms of other stuff, I don't know. Bungie's been on this is probably the biggest break Bungie's been on in terms of TWAB. They left, I believe, I think the week before or the week during Christmas, and they're going to be back next week, which is the 18th. So they've been gone for like almost a month in terms of communication. I don't know in terms of like, I'm pretty sure they have people keeping the lights on over there. But yeah, um, hold on. Let me. Another thing too with the story is again Crow's the main character of this game. Our character just does stuff and things happen, but we don't. I never feel like we're actively a part of the story, even though we do like monumental things. Like again, they couldn't even bother to put us in the cutscene. We couldn't see Crow off or anything. I know he gave us like his little words before he bid us farewell, but like you can just put us in the cutscene with Riven or whatever. At least Riven's had some words to say to us before she died forever. But it's like wow. So whatever. Let's see. Fireteam Finder came out this season. I've heard some good stuff. I used it once to do GM. It wasn't the end of the world. It's pretty nice. I mean, the artifact's fine. But another thing too about the artifact that always pisses me off is that the mod. I mentioned this before. The mod system is completely gutted. It's completely neutered. It's a Shadow of a Torm herself. Everything revolves around orbs, but then they nerfed orb regeneration because of course they did. But mods like Argent Ordnance and Blast Radius used to be combat style mods that we had, and then they took them away, and now they're seasonal artifacts. Why can't this just be an armor mod we have access to all the time? Why is things like Swift Charge gone? Like I don't understand why they keep removing this. It's like literally like how they treat the game. They remove stuff from us and then they give it back to us later, right? And we're supposed to be happy for it. Like you know what I mean? I don't understand that. That really pisses me off because again, all the builds revolve around just getting an orb and you get extra stats or you get your grenade back faster. That's it. That's not really a build in terms of using combat style mods, right? Whatever. Let's see anything else. Again, no exotic armor this time, which blows. So there's no reason to go through lost sectors. They did change lost sectors, so when you do them on master, you have a guaranteed world drop weapon, and they're on like a set schedule, so you can farm for world drop weapons that way, which is nice, I guess. Took them long enough, to make it good. Let's see. I mean, there's like some checkmate stuff with, but again, I'm not a PvP guy, so whatever. Trying to think of anything else. Anything else that's like really stands out in terms of stuff. Um, I guess they released a new Witcher armor crossover, which ironically enough, you can get the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt like with all his DLCs cheaper than buying the armor set, so that's cool. Um, Again, Final Shape being delayed. They announced at the beginning of the season. I think most people saw it coming because all the layoffs that happened last season, or last couple of months. But yeah, like this is their last season. To maybe try to go off with a bang, but again, as per usual, Bungie don't expect over delivery, right? It's not their weakest season by far. No, it's not their weakest season, but it's like this last season. And yeah, this is just it. You just wish your way through. Another thing too, because I know voice actors and all this other stuff, but again, it's one of those weird ones where you think like the Vanguard would be involved, like at Korra. I know Cyrus is involved. Maybe he's like acting on the behalf of the Vanguard. Not he's not really part of it. But and I know Zavala's voice actor is dead. I know Lance Reddick has died, so I can understand that. But you think more characters would be involved in this, especially the Vanguard. Regarding Ahamkara crap because they ordered the Great Hunt, right? But it is what it is. If I were to praise this season, I think the best week was the week where Sharkcross came out, where Ribbon was like really pissed off about the Vex taking your eggs. You learn about Tyrannus, and you have that really nice cutscene that really puts a different perspective on the Great Hunt. And yeah, although I haven't been looking to lore cards, but I'm really interested to find out what happened on Venus because they kept mentioning like they did something to Venus where they really fucked up the planet or something. And that's why uh, that was like the catalyst for the Great Hunt, happening. Um, but yeah, like I said, overall it's an okay season. The weapons are pretty good. In terms of like just other general stuff, Quicksilver Storm still like one of the best exotics in the game. Polaris Lance, finally people have realized how good it is. Also, it helps with the seasonal artifact, makes it extremely like good because it can have Radiant on demand, so it can be barrier and unstoppable. Because if you run Ember of Ashes, 2 per 5 shots can cause ignition. Thanks on unstoppables, but yeah, like I said, in terms of negative, like maybe there's some stuff I'm forgetting to mention here and there, but it's one of those things where we're at the dry spell again, where there's nothing going on. So play different games, live your life, come back in June. Actually, I know I want to say April, there's going to be a thing they release called Into the Light, and I think in February they're gonna do like weekly wishes or something. I don't know about that, but Into the Light supposed to be like some new content, some onboarding stuff, to hold people over until final shape. But yeah, like I said, we're nearing the end of the journey here. 10 years. Actually, almost has been 10 years since I started playing, at least. So, yeah. Again, final thoughts on the season. If I were to give it a score, actually, that's kind of too harsh. But it's. I'll do it like this. It is what you expect of a season. Nothing more, nothing less. You have a seasonal exotic, a seasonal story, a week. By the way, they definitely changed up the seasonal model, huh? Wink, wink. Yeah, they definitely changed. Guys, it's so different. Remember when people complained about the upgrade grid? Oh yeah, we changed it all right. Instead of having an upgrade grid, now you have challenges to get stuff. See, it's so different, guys. Even though you just log in and play Destiny for 30 minutes every day, or 30 minutes once a week, and then log back off until next Tuesday. It's so different. But But yeah, thank you for listening to listen to me ramble. Sorry for this a little fast paced, but there's nothing much to really say. There might be an epilogue. I'm surprised the seasonal finale came out this week. Some people were speculating, myself included, that it'd come out like way later, like during like a week before Final Shape. But at least I'm glad that they gave us this. So, anyways, again, I said it before, but I'll say it again. Thanks for watching.